Hey everybody, what's going on? Bahroo here, and today I have another skill tree breakdown for you guys, and this one's going to be continuing looking at Nisha, and we're going to be taking a look at the Riflewoman skill tree this time. Before we get into it, I want to thank you all for all of the support you've been showing this series, as well as the previous episode, which was the Fan the Hammer skill tree. And today, we're going to be looking again at this Riflewoman tree, which centers mostly around, I guess you could say, more of a twitch shooter with assault rifles and sniper rifles. A lot of these skills are kind of based on aiming for criticals and being able to snap from target to target very quickly and getting kills as fast as possible. You're going to have a lot of rate of fire increases throughout the skill tree, and it doesn't really focus too much on the main action skill. In fact, almost nothing buffs the main action skill, so you won't have to worry too much about that and trying to keep it up or anything like that. But it definitely does help this skill tree in general. So why don't we just go ahead and take a look at the first skill here, which is going to be Bonafide Grit. This is a kill skill. Killing an enemy grants you bonus critical hit damage and health regeneration for a short duration. Obviously, first tier, not a bad skill. It is a kill skill, so it's not going to be active at all times, but the critical hit damage is not too bad on it. The health regeneration really isn't that high. If you look at it right now, 1.2% per second over 10 seconds. When you think about it, really is not that much. You're looking at, like, with that many skill points thrown into it, you're looking at 12% of your health over 10 seconds. And most enemies are going to be able to burn through that pretty quickly. So for a tier 1 skill, I mean, there's not really much to expect from this type of things. It is a kill skill. It's kind of a lesser kill skill. I wouldn't really invest too much into this type of thing here. It's not really too beneficial overall, but maybe if you get a nice class mod that boosts you 11 out of 5, you might be able to get some good health regen out of it. But most enemies in the game can out damage any sort of health regen skill like this. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at the other tier 1 skill now. So for our next tier 1 skill, we've got Snapshot. When firing from the hip, you gain dramatically increased accuracy and recoil reduction. Now this is a really nice skill because Nisha's action skill inherently is a from the hip type action skill, unless you decide to ADS and go for critical hit points. So already it's buffing your action skill by a little bit, but the most important part about this skill, which you should pick up regardless of what tree you want to go down, is the fact that 1, it's tier 1, so you've got it like right out the gate. Number 2, this is going to benefit your fight for your life. If anyone is familiar with Borderlands, you know that going into fight for your life, your accuracy is always from the hip. You do not get to aim down sights while in fight for your life. So this will be a really nice skill to help you deal with that, because your accuracy just goes all over the place, as well as your recoil. So for anytime you need to go down, or you need to just get a long range second wind, this skill will definitely help you out here. I know I've had a couple of instances where I go down from really far away, and the only enemy is just you can't hit them because your accuracy just isn't good enough. So this will definitely help out. It's also really good for shotguns in general. Jacob shotguns definitely lose a lot of accuracy when fired the first time, so on the second shot, it won't be nearly as inaccurate. So pretty good tier 1 skill. This will probably be where I put most of my skill points because of the fight for life bonuses and the shotgun bonuses. Also, it'll allow you to hip fire certain rapid fire assault rifles like Vladov and things like that. So overall, not bad. Anyway, let's go ahead and start making our way down this tree now and see what else we have here to offer for you guys. So for our first tier 2 ability, we've got Unchained. Shooting an enemy grants you increased fire rate with all gun types. A stack of Unchained can only be gained once per second, and all stacks are lost if you don't shoot anything for 10 seconds. So as we can see here, this is another skill that can be boosted, and it looks like the maximum stacks that you can get is 21. I don't know if there's going to be a special class mod that can boost the amount of stacks that you can get, but with 2 skill points in there, you can see that it is a 1% per stack, so if you get all 21 stacks up and you go, you know, 5 out of 5 out of this thing, you're going to get a pretty nice fire rate increase. And what's nice about this skill is that you don't need to, like, get a kill skill or something like that, or it's not a ridiculously high amount like Claptrap's Maniacal Laughter, which would take a very long time to actually stack up to its maximum potential. So Unchained is really nice, and the way it works is you don't really have to do anything special to keep these stacks going. Just keep killing, you'll get faster rate of fire, which is really nice. And rate of fire increases while it doesn't really help with damage too much. It will definitely help with certain weapons that suffer from rate of fire, such as bolt action, Jacob sniper rifles. Since the skill tree kind of sticks with the whole sniper rifle skill tree, being able to buff the bolt action sniper rifles, or being able to even just make Vladoff even better, because for those who are not aware, my best in slot sniper rifles, Vladoff, just the basic Vladoff was one of the best, so being able to get even more rate of fire out of it definitely wouldn't hurt. Overall, a good skill, just a nice passive buff to help your character along. And as we've said before, the enemies, there's a lot in the game, and they spread them out pretty nicely, so you won't ever have to worry about losing your stacks. And for a raid boss type encounter, it looks like, you know, you're going to be able to keep those stacks throughout the entire fight, since it's only triggered by just hitting them with bullets. So anyway, that's a pretty nice skill. Let's go ahead and take a look at what's on the other side of the tree here. So for the other tier 2 ability, we have Quickshot. After reloading for a short duration, you gain increased gun damage and fire rate only when shooting from the hip. Now here's another skill that kind of benefits from the skill right above it, which was the increased hip fire accuracy and recoil reduction. Now you have a reason to do so. After you do a quick reload, you're going to be getting that... You're going to be getting some extra gun damage and fire rate. The gun damage is about 6% per level, and the fire rate is about 7%. So, I mean, there's not really much to say. Just reload, get some extra damage. It's going to be nice. Going to have some nice synergy with the skill above it. But overall, a pretty basic skill. Not really much to go over here. Nice buff overall. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's just go ahead and take a look at our first game changer here. So for our first game changer skill, we have Fistful of Bullets. Increases your magazine size with all gun types by 3. Now for assault rifles, this is not that great of a... Actually, for assault rifles, SMGs, and things like that, this is not a great ability to have. It doesn't really benefit much, but if you look at it from the other side of things, if you have a rocket launcher, or if you have a Jacob shotgun, you'll be able to get a lot more shots out of it before you have to reload. I know I've found a lot of Torg rocket launchers that sometimes only have 1 or maybe even 2 in the magazine, so being able to add just a solid 3 to every magazine so you don't have to worry too much about parts is a good thing to have. Definitely a solid skill on that. For sniper rifles, being able to increase that Jacob's bolt action by a little bit is kind of nice as well. And most importantly, Jacob's Long Riders will be able to have a nice +3 on them. If you put this with a double barrel, you're guaranteed to have at least 2 shots, maybe even more, maybe even up to 4 shots with a double barrel, which is really nice. So it's very, I guess you could say it's kind of niche on what exactly it's going to be buffing. For the main priority of assault rifles, that is the skill tree, it's not going to do much, but it'll help out quite a few gun types. So pretty good skill to have for things like that. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the second game changer that we have here. And for our next game changer, we're going to have a skill called Impatience. Killing an enemy grants you a stack of Impatience, increasing your reload speed by 20% for each stack. All stacks, however, are lost upon actually doing a full reload, and this can stack up to 21 times. So this is a pretty interesting skill that really benefits large magazine style weapons. Say you've got like a bandit LMG, and let's assume that those are actually going to be good in the pre-sequel. You know, those have fairly long reload times, but you're able to get quite a few kills with that much ammo. And the way this is going to work is that, you know, let's say you get about 10 kills with that, your next reload's going to be 200% faster, which is pretty awesome. overall, not a bad skill to have, and being able to just do a quick reload is really nice. And even if you only get 1 to 2 kills per magazine, it's still going to be worth it to pick this up just so you can get back in the action just a little bit faster. I don't know how this is going to work against raid bosses, whether or not they have a lot of cannon fodder, but overall, not a bad skill to have. Definitely a good thing to just sort of pick up, and I don't know if I would say it's a better game changer than the previous one, but overall, good skill. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the left side of these skills here. So for the other side of the skill tree, we have a skill called Crackshot. The first shot fired from a fully loaded magazine causes bonus damage. If you kill an enemy with this shot, they explode, dealing damage to all nearby enemies. Now, it does not say how much this explosion is. I don't know if it's a set amount, or if it's going to be similar to Krieg's Bloodsplosion, where it's an X amount of the overkill. Not entirely sure how that whole thing is going to work, but it does say that it is about 10% per point that you put into it. So it's going to be exactly like Zero's one shot, one kill, where the very first shot of a fully loaded magazine deals increased damage, which is, you know, kind of like basically a reverse money shot, but you know, it works, and it's not going to really benefit assault rifles too much, but for sniper rifles or from rocket launchers, because it does say the first shot from a loaded magazine, it does not specify a specific weapon type. You're going to be able to get a massive damage increase, you know, 50% base, and then if there's a comm that can boost it, up to 110% for the first shot, which for rocket launchers would be really nice. Anyway, overall, good skill to have. I would like to see how this explosion on kill works, but there's really no information on it. They didn't spec into it in the gameplay, so yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the right side now. So for the other side here, we've got an ability called Hot Lead, which is your critical hits with non-elemental guns deal additional fire damage with a high chance of igniting enemies. The damage of the fire and ignite damage is based on your gun's damage. And if we look at the tooltip here, you can see adds an additional 5% damage as fire, which means 5 out of 5 will give you 25%, upwards of 55% if there is a class mod that boosts it, which, thinking about it now, an additional 55% gun damage as fire damage would be ridiculous for Jacob's weaponry. And I've really noticed that they didn't want to leave non-elemental basically hanging, which is basically showing that they are learning from their mistakes. Back in Borderlands 2, after UVHM launched, a lot of non-elemental weapons, and near the end of TVHM, non-elemental weapons in general were really starting to fall off because the elemental multiplier from the other guns was just beating them outright. There was no point to use a non-elemental weapon, and only one class buffed non-elemental weapons specifically. So Nisha is looking really nice in that department, in that she's not going to let just all these guns be completely unusable. Jacobs is just going to be a real powerhouse. And if you watched my previous video going over the Fan the Hammer, you can deal explosive damage with non-elemental weapons as well. So you're going to be able to do explosive, non-elemental, and fire damage with a single pull of the trigger as Nisha. So you're just going to be able to do so much elemental damage, and you may actually want to use a fire relic with Jacob's weaponry, which is kind of ridiculous, but at the same time, completely awesome. So yeah, definitely looking forward to this skill. If you get this far down the skill tree, you're pretty much required to pick this up. And you know, I'll end up running the numbers once pre-sequel launches, and I'll figure out which is going to be better, a non-elemental Vladoff assault rifle, or maybe just a fire assault rifle. I'm thinking with the way that these skills are working, especially if there's a class mod that is 11 out of 5, that it may actually be better to use non-elemental weapons over fire weapons for Nisha, because you actually lose base damage for using elemental weapons, and this may end up countering that. So we'll see. We'll see how this all plays out. So let's go ahead and keep making our way down the skill tree here. Let's take a look at this nice Tombstone. So for our next skill, we have a skill called Tombstone, which is a kill skill. After killing an enemy, all hits have a chance to count as critical hits for a short time. Now this is 6% per skill point that you put into it, so if you go 5 out of 5, you're looking at 30% extra chance to, when you do a body shot, that it will actually count as a critical. Now this is actually kind of interesting because it says that all hits have a chance to be a critical, so I'm actually kind of curious if Nisha is going to be able to make rocket launchers crit, which, if that is a thing, I don't even know how to feel about it, but I'm looking forward to it. I would love to shoot a psycho in his foot and it somehow blows up his brain. We're just going to go ahead and roll with that. If you've made it this far, shoot it in the foot, blow up the brain. It's a thing now. But anyway, let's just say that there's a class mod, because I mean, we don't know the class mods that are going to be in Borderlands the pre-sequel, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there for every time we get a skill like this. Let's say there is a class mod that will allow you to boost this skill to 11 out of 5. We're looking at about 66% chance that when you hit the body, it will count as a critical hit instead of a body shot, which for shotguns is just a godsend, because it's going to allow you to just body an enemy, and most of the pellets are going to count as critical hits rather than you know, just a regular body shot. And it can be kind of difficult to land all pellets on the head, so it may end up being better to just aim for the body rather than aiming for the head with most weapons, especially for ones that can kind of be a little picky to try and crit. Imagine trying to find a skag. Their crit spot can sometimes be covered up if they are rabid. I know critting rabid enemies is not the easiest thing unless you're Maya and can phase lock them into the air. So for enemies that end up being a little bit of a pain to crit, this is definitely a good skill to have. And, you know, there's always the whole potential of rocket launchers critting, which I would just think would be hilarious. So overall, good skill. Would love to see this have a class mod on it. And why don't we go ahead and take a look at that last skill over there before we take a look at our capstone. Alright, and so for our final skill before we take a look at the capstone is called Trickshot. Your bullets that hit walls or other objects, basically not hitting an enemy, have a chance to ricochet off toward an enemy. So basically this is close enough. The ricochet chance is 8% and the ricochet bullet damage is -20. Now if it's just like close enough, that -20 is not going to actually get any higher. So you're going to do 80% of your normal damage, and that ricochet chance can be 8%. And if we take that, you know, times 5, you're looking at about 40% chance that when you miss, you will potentially hit an enemy. I highly doubt that there would be a class mod that boosts this skill, simply because that would lead to about an 88% chance that when you miss, you'll hit an enemy. And that would just make it so you literally never have to aim. It would remove the whole aspect of aiming if there was a class mod in there that made an 88% chance for it to ricochet into an enemy. Just imagine it now, because this is not a kill skill. It will be active at all times. You can just spray around every wall, and all of the pellets will probably find a nice little place in their head. And because of the kill skill that will allow you to make body shots count as criticals, they will probably end up, even if they don't hit the head, they will still deal critical damage. So I highly doubt that there's going to be a class mod that boosts this, but overall, not a bad skill to have. If you're in a dangerous situation, it would actually be beneficial to hide around a corner and potentially, you know, shoot some bullets on the floor and hopefully ricochet into an enemy. I know I've been in a lot of situations like that in Borderlands 2 before, so not a bad thing to have. I doubt it's going to get boosted. If it did, Nisha's going to be completely broken, which, you know, again, is not a bad thing, but is a thing that might happen. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at our capstone now for this skill tree. So, for our final skill here, I know I said that none of these skills kind of boost her action skill. Well, I kind of lied. Anyway, so this capstone is called the Unforgiven. During Showdown, all shots that hit enemies will now ricochet towards other enemies, dealing 10% weapon damage per hit. Also, Showdown ending triggers an explosive nova on all enemies who have been shot by you. Now, what I would love to know is if I shoot an enemy, it ricochets to another enemy, if it will then ricochet again, because if so, that would just be awesome, dealing a lot of AoE damage to all enemies nearby, and all you have to do is just focus on one enemy, which is a great which is a great skill to have for raid bosses that have additional enemies on them. Just sort of focus the main guy down, and the extra bullets will start whittling down the smaller ones. For a mobbing point of view, still great. You're going to be able to kill multiple enemies at the same time, and assuming they live through all of that, you now have the showdown will trigger an explosive nova on all enemies who've been shot by you, so they all become a living bomb as soon as the showdown ends. So yeah, it's going to deal a lot of area of effect damage and be able to kill multiple enemies at once, and you don't even have to fire at them, which is going to be even better. And with the skill that makes ricochets, assuming you miss, considering that the showdown is going to auto aim to the enemy anyway. If it does miss, it'll hit the enemy and then ricochet to another enemy. So this turns her action skill into an absolute powerhouse. And if you add this into the skill that allows you to from the fan the hammer tree, if you spec into a skill that increases your duration, and every time you get a kill you increase your damage and your duration, it's just, you're going to be sitting in your action skill for so long that literally everything is going to be dying in seconds to you, just getting completely demolished, which is not a bad thing. I'm okay with this. I'm okay with skill trees being completely overpowered, and I'm hoping Gearbox is just like accepting the fact that we want overpowered skill trees. But anyway, that is pretty much going to wrap it up for the Riflewoman skill tree. Let me know in the comments how you all feel about this skill tree. I'm personally looking forward to Nisha a lot more than I did previously. I know I bashed her for her auto aim skill, or auto aim action skill, but when you really look at this skill tree, you can see a lot of potential in everything that she does. So I'm really looking forward to it. In the next episode, we're going to be taking a look at the Law and Order tree. But after that, definitely leave me a comment. Would you like to see Wilhelm's skill tree or Athena's skill tree get broken down after that? I would love to hear that from you guys. And as always, thank you for watching. If you found this enjoyable, be sure to hit that like button. Help support me in what I do. And, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for future Borderlands the pre-sequel news, guides, breakdowns like these, and all sorts of other type things. So thank you all for watching again, and I will see you all in the next video. Later.